Pedal down on part 2 of today's Local 6 Legal Line. Attorneys from the Bryant Law Center answering your questions at 1-888-208-6946 regarding personal injury and criminal defense. And next question comes from someone, and Mark, I bet you've heard this before. Recently, this person was in an accident. The other person ran a red light, and they said they hit me. This other person had no insurance. How can they get away with that?
Well, that is a very bad situation that I've talked about several times when I've been on Channel 6. Hopefully you had sufficient insurance where if they hurt you, you had either uninsured insurance because that person was uninsured. They can't get away with it. The police should have charged it. Well, actually, it wasn't a misdemeanor committed in their presence, but they could have given them a citation. But you could go down and take a criminal charge against that person for not having insurance because that is against the law. But as I've harped about so much on Channel 6 over the years, anytime you're driving in Kentucky, the only insurance you have to have is $25,000. But if you value your health and your wealth, you need to get as much underinsured and uninsured insurance as you can. Because if somebody hits you, and it's not at all unusual anymore to have $1 million worth of medical damages in a case, and you find out that the person on the other side had no insurance, and furthermore, all you had is $25,000 worth of insurance. So you really need to look at your own policy. You need to see that the PIP, that's the personal injury protection, that's as much as you can get. Routinely, they only sell you $10,000, but it doesn't cost that much more to get an additional $60,000. So you can have $70,000 in PIP insurance for very little money. And if you have a wreck, whether it's your fault or the other person's fault, under that PIP program, you can use that money for lost wages and medical expenses. But the other thing about it is if somebody hits you and they don't have any insurance, you need to have uninsured coverage. And if you can afford $100,000, $300,000, that's what you need to get, because it is shocking how many times people come in with huge amounts of expenses from a wreck and terrible injuries, and nobody's got insurance. But you can take criminal charges against that guy. They're not our person. They're not going to get away with it. But what will happen is, if it's the first time they ever did it, it's called a Class A misdemeanor, and the fine for a Class A misdemeanor is up to $1,000 fine, and you can be required to serve as much as 365 days in jail. So they're not going to get away with it, but you got to do something. You got to take it on yourself to go down and take criminal charges.
Got about 30 seconds left in this segment, and someone says my daughter was texting while driving and was involved in an accident that was not her fault. Will this hurt our injury case?
Well, if it really was not her fault, it will not have any impact on the criminal case. But it is a violation of the law to text in Kentucky while you're driving. So if it's a question as to how, whether that other person was just a little more negligent than your daughter was, conceivably it might hurt her case. So it's just a good idea not to violate the law, and the law in Kentucky on texting is, if you're driving, it's kind of like drunk driving. You're not supposed to drink and drive. You're not supposed to text and drive either, and it can have a real impact on your case.
Mark Bryant and Tyler Brown, the honorable attorneys from the Bryant Law Center, Paducah, Mayfield, and Louisville, our guests today on Local 6 Legal Line, answering questions regarding to personal injury and criminal defense. Want to review either one of these segments? They'll be up shortly. Check it out online at WPSDLocal6.com.